Welcome to the Meet Crete podcast, where we sit down and talk with people who make Crete run every day. Hi, I'm Dave, one of the creative producers inside the communications department at Crete Carrier. Today, we're going to be talking with somebody who's way more important in this place than you probably even imagine. If you even know that there is a department that does this. Today, we're going to talk with Jacob Stout about all sorts of stuff. But why don't you tell people what you do?
Man, that's quite a hard question, actually. So I'm the assistant general counsel here. So I work in the legal department, but my focus is kind of all over the business, just wherever the business needs me from a corporate perspective. So that means reviewing contracts with both our customers and vendors that we might use. That means any sort of problem that any department has, if they want some legal advice or some legal input or just a listening ear to help give them some advice, I'm here to fill that role for them as best I can.
I don't think I realized until I got here how litigious trucking can be. How big is the legal department here, and why do we need so many lawyers?
Yeah, so we're not as big of a legal department as maybe some other trucking companies would have, but we have 3 full-time attorneys just in our legal department, and then we have another 3 attorneys in other positions around in the company. And so, and truck accident litigation is a huge part, and that's kind of 2/3 of the group of the team and of lawyers in legal, and I'm kind of that third utility hitter that we get for kind of everything else.
Well, you always need a great utility infielder.
That's
always
right.
need one of those. How long have you been practicing?
So I have been out of law school now coming up on 12 years. I was maybe a late bloomer, you'd say.
Got started late?
Yep. I was a college dropout for a short while, but I finished my law degree in 2011 and got admitted to the bar right after that. So, man, I guess I'm coming up on 13 years now.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
It doesn't always feel like that every day.
I'm sure it doesn't. You have a very, very hard profession. It doesn't matter if you're in a trucking company or wherever you are. It's a very, very hard profession. It ebbs and flows and has seasons like everything else. But the law is very difficult, I would imagine.
She's a difficult mistress, they teach us in law school.
A mistress. Yeah, all I ever got was broadcasting ain't gonna pay. That's all I ever got. So, tell me? I know where you grew up, and I know something about where you grew up. Why don't you tell people where you grew up?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm outside of the little town on the prairie, D. Smith, South Dakota.
So D. Smith, South Dakota is where Michael Landon and Melissa Gilbert founded the town. Is that right?
Yeah.
Sort of.
As the TV show told us, that's exactly right. And after that, I suppose I grew up after the popularity of that television show, and so it just kind of was part of my childhood, how many visitors that you'd get to D. Smith for Laura Ingalls Wilder sort of history and stuff like that. But I don't think it was quite like that in the 60s and until the 70s when the show
the books came out,
on. Yep.
And then the show afterwards. And so what is that like? It's not a very big town.
No. When I graduated high school, we would have had about a population of 2,000.
Okay.
And so
when you have that many more people visiting in a couple of days to see all the Laura Ingalls Wilder stuff, that must have been kind of off-putting as a local.
It was. It both was and it wasn't, because there's a big part of that was kind of the lifeblood of the town as far as that tourism income and just keeping all of those local Main Street businesses running, and really kind of thinking about that when I graduated in 2000. A lot of those smaller towns in South Dakota were kind of on the downhill slope economically, and D. Smith didn't really seem to suffer quite as bad as some of the other small towns around us. So even though you kind of felt like you were being encroached upon, I think it was also really good for our economy that we had that draw for people from all over the world, really.
You did. You went to law school here at UNL. Where'd you get your undergrad?
So my undergrad was kind of taken in two phases. As I said, I dropped out, but I completed all of that at South Dakota State University in Brookings, South Dakota.
There you go.
About 45 miles away from the farm that I grew up on. And so at least before, when I was first in school, which was for biochemistry, I would go home and do work with the cattle every single weekend because Dad was helping pay some
Yep.
of those bills, and that's how I paid him.
That's great. And now it's a little of everything, right? You're
That's
going
right.
after people, defending people.
And I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. You know, I grew up as a cattle farmer, and I think we all have things to shovel. And as a lawyer, there's just different stuff to shovel. It smells a little different. Usually, it's a lot cleaner, and that sure is nice. But you know, sometimes it's good to get your hands dirty too.
Let's talk about what you do here. You say that you're all over the place and you do it, but you've got to have like a major concentration on what you do day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that biggest responsibility really is in contract reviewing, contract drafting, and even what you might call contract compliance type things. So any contract of any type that's going to come through the company, I'm probably going to be the first person to take a look at it, to analyze it, to find out, you know, which other people in the business are going to need to make decisions about this contract as far as what can we do, what can't we do. And so that's really, I think, what brought me here in the first place and what the company really needed. And I continue to keep up with those responsibilities. And then if you're fortunate enough to be useful, people will find more uses for you.
Yeah, I've noticed that. But it's kind of nice as a lawyer that you're not pigeonholed into just reading thousands of pages of briefs or redacting something all day long. You've got a little of everything to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is even another part, you know, besides the contract, which is a heavy lift of reading, right? There's the other parts that are kind of responding to certain customer concerns or just giving people quick advice on, hey, this happened with a customer. You know, can you take a quick look at the contract and tell me what it says about this? What should I do in this situation, right? And it's not even really because a lawsuit's brewing or anything like that. It's just because of Crete's commitment to doing the right thing. And if I can help out with that as an attorney, I'm happy to do it.
How did you get interested in the law? You kind of got this disjointed college career. How did you decide to add more college on after you started up again?
Yeah. Boy, this is going to be an interesting answer. I got a DUI when I was a college dropout. Certainly wasn't my proudest moment. Probably wasn't also the fairest time in my life. But that kind of woke me up out of a little bit of a slumber of what I was doing with my life and where I was heading. And fortunately for me, you know, it kind of only took one of those real mistakes, but not one that really caused a whole lot of damage or hurt myself or anybody else. And that was enough for me to kind of get a wake-up call to say, what are you doing and what are you going to do with your life? And that gave me the opportunity to start heading down a different path. And somehow this is where I ended up, I guess. I just started walking it.
So that's kind of great, actually. A lot of people don't pay attention to those warning signals or signs or whatever, and you picked it up. You picked up the mantle and ran with it. It's great.
Yeah.
And so now you have a life here in Lincoln. I'm assuming you have family.
Yeah, I've got a lovely wife. We're coming up on, we're coming up on 16 years. And then I have two lovely daughters. I got a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. My 11-year-old's named Penelope, and my 7-year-old Elizabeth. And yeah, this is just a great place to build a family. Lincoln itself is a great town with great schools. You know, a lot of different viewpoints around here, so you can always find somebody that you agree with and somebody you disagree with.
Yep.
You know, but and then you couldn't ask for a better company as far as what kind of company you want to work for. If you're a family man, need to support your family, need to be stable. Crete's the place to be if you're going to be doing that.
How long have you been here?
I'm just coming up on 7 years.
7 years with Crete.
May 15th. I'm looking forward to hitting my 7-year mark.
That's pretty impressive, man. But you know, you and I both are lightweights. You look around and all the plaques all over. Everybody brags in their cubicles. Here, look how many years I've been here.
I try not to get jealous about that. I feel like at some point, I think, you know, maybe when you cross that 5 to 7, don't worry about it. You belong at that point. Now you just have to wait to get, you know,
I guess
to get that 20 year on your plaque.
I'm assuming that you like the company, what it stands for, what it's doing.
Absolutely. You know, I've worked corporate wide now, since I've completed law school, I've only worked for 2 corporations. One of them was a publicly traded Fortune 500 company, and the other one is Crete, privately held. And look, no company can ever be perfect, but I so much more enjoy my experience here every single day. The people that I work with, the philosophy that the company has, just a lot of the ways that Crete does things right, as far as how seriously we take accidents, how much work we put into finding the answers when something goes wrong out on the road. That is super important for a company to take that seriously, just for everybody's good out there, not only for our own profits, but for the whole community at large.
I like how the company puts such an emphasis on safety before anything ever comes to you guys. They're doing everything they can to mitigate a problem.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly the type of company that you want to be able to defend, right? No human can ever be perfect. But if you can remember that the most important thing is people, and that what we need to do is try to keep them safe, that's going to inform every other decision you make. And I got to tell you, that makes it really easy when I'm giving people advice around here about what should I do. You can just say, well, what comes first? And you'll always get the answer, safety. And so you can always reframe someone's mind to, hey, let's think about safety first. Let's make sure we've got that covered, and then let's move on to the rest of the concerns that we need to deal with.
Well, what a great answer. That was a fantastic. We can just stop now, I think.
I don't even prepare this. That's what law school does to you.
Oh, is that? So that's what $70,000 a year will get you a really good answer on a podcast. So in case you're interested in the law.
If you want me back.
Yeah, no, totally. What do you wish you knew about the industry, about this place before you started here? Like, what would have made your life infinitely better if you would have known it up front?
Man, that's a heck of a question. How important it really is to understand all the different departments that are here, and to have at least gone around and introduced yourself and made some friends far and wide within the company, because we're all our terminals are spread out all throughout the country. We cover a lot of ground in terms of the types of things that we have to do from day to day to get freight delivered. But man, everybody shares that same goal. And so a really great place to start here is to be introducing yourself around to different departments. Be curious about what they do, and you're going to find that paying dividends for years and years into the future in terms of thinking of that person who you know. The accounting department's great, right? Because I call them the math department, and they call us the literature department, right? If I need some math done, if I need help with an Excel spreadsheet, I call up one of my friends over in accounting because I'm not good with Excel. They're gonna walk me through everything that I need, and it's gonna save me so much time. Likewise, when they're having trouble writing something out to explain something to somebody, or to get a letter about why somebody owes us money, they come to the English department, and they get some help from me on how to write those paragraphs, and it's just a good experience. And we have our expertise, we know each other, and we trust each other. It really helps you get work done.
Yeah, so you just explained teamwork to me, basically.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's what it's called, isn't it?
Yeah. No, but it's amazing how much of that there is here.
Yeah, and it's so natural with the company. If you come to somebody with a concern or a problem, man, 9 times out of 10, the response you're going to get is, hey, I think I know how to help you with that. Or if it's not that, it's, hey, you should go talk to so-and-so. I think
I get a lot
really
of that.
be able to help you with what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, people are really good about putting you in front of the person that you need to talk to if they don't know. Mm-hmm. And it happened 3 times yesterday. I was just like, everybody's doing the same thing. It's so cool.
Yep. And and it's really great when you finally feel yourself becoming one of those people.
Yeah.
That people send people to you to help them with certain issues, and also that you know your way around the company well enough to really be able to point somebody right to the right person on the first shot. That's a great feeling.
I've got 3 more decades to go before I'm there. What do you think is probably the most challenging thing with your department right now? I mean, the world is
The world's a crazy place.
It's really crazy. And so when it comes to anything legal,
Mm-hmm.
it's got to be upside down for you guys as well.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing that I'm just starting to get a glimpse of here is that, I've been told a lot that trucking is a real cyclical business, and I could see that always from the very beginning. But what's kind of interesting to see is those cycles kind of affect other parts of the business. So the idea that freight rates are kind of declining and that it's a tough time to be in the trucking industry. Our rates are decreasing, our costs are increasing. Those pressures actually come all the way back around to contract negotiations, to cargo claims and to litigation type claims, because they change everybody's viewpoint of where they are. They change the leverage that you might have in a negotiating standpoint. And so when rates are down and costs are up, certain shippers will try to press the advantage. And likewise, we kind of do the same thing when the roles are reversed. But to the extent that I can, I like to see those things coming, kind of understand what the challenges are, and kind of strip away those external pressures and just try to do the best I can for the company.
I'm sure, working in the legal department, the DOJ and other entities and legislation and that kind of thing, that's going to make things difficult as well. It's always ever changing. There's always a new rule.
Yeah, absolutely. And government especially can be kind of, it always is running slowly, right? And oftentimes inefficiently, but it does seem to change directions kind of back and forth between parties, between certain political leaders. And, it's a very natural thing about human behavior, but it gets a little frustrating from the legal side where you really you want an answer. You don't even care really if the answer is right or wrong. You just want one answer so you know what you're dealing with and aren't going to have to kind of come back later on and revisit that whole thing. But it's kind of unavoidable, right? The government works in the way it does, and different departments kind of follow those pressures that they get from the DOT, the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor especially is kind of one that is proposing a few new rules, and we're going to have to see what they are and analyze them when they come out and just do the best that we can for the company and for our employees.
Don't you long for the days when you never thought about politics or the government or like Little House on the Prairie? They didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Makes you want to move to South Dakota, I'm telling you.
For me, I couldn't live anywhere else, or I couldn't live in any other world. Like ever since that kind of life-changing event I told you about, it's just been something that interests me. So I'm kind of one of those junkies. You're never going to take it out of me.
And now that you've peeked behind the curtain, yeah, you can't take it back.
Exactly right. And you see who the what is that from the Wizard of Oz? The emerald guy behind the curtain, right? And you get really interested in how it actually works. And sometimes it's surprising both how well it works and how poorly it works. But it's always interesting.
Jacob, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I had so much fun here as well, Dave.
Did you really?
Absolutely.
I need the lawyers to be on my side. You're going to be one of those special favor guys down the road. So
I've got I should tell you one more story if we've got time.
We've got all the time in the world.
So I was thinking about this interview coming up for, a couple weeks, ever since you told me you'd like me to be on here. And you just triggered this little memory inside my mind of some really happy times that I used to have when I was the cattle farming young man, right? I was in 4-H. I showed cattle, so you see people using giant blow dryers to fluff up cattle's hair and put all sorts of product in them. And I was raised in that sort of environment. But every year we had the county fair, and I wish I could remember their call sign, but it was the AM radio of the whole eastern South Dakota area. that there was this one radio personality who, that was his shtick in the summer, is he went to all of those county fairs and, would just report on what was going on for the AM radio station. And he and I developed a sort of relationship from when I was like 8 years old, because my dad was a county extension agent. So he was really involved in those county fairs as well. And so this AM radio personality, every summer, he would seek me out at the county fair because he just loved to interview me. And I was always this talkative, even as a little boy. And so I don't know if I can find any tapes of that or anything, but you kind of gave me a flashback to some of those good times that I always had talking to somebody on the radio and now on a podcast. And
that's how it starts. That's how they hook you. They get you at the county fair, and the next thing you know, you're making $3.35 an hour. That's how radio works.
Yep, there you go.
Stick right where you are. You're doing a great job. Great to meet you. Thanks for sitting down. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you're watching on YouTube, just a reminder, you can find all of our weekly updates, driver stories, and more episodes of this podcast on the Crete Carrier YouTube channel. We'll be back to find out more about the people that we work with inside Crete Carrier and Schaefer Trucking in the next episode of Meet Crete.